Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen on site, and good afternoon, participants online. Good afternoon, everybody all over the globe. We want to welcome you to another side event in the numerous activities of the UNFCCC that has been organized today by 3 organizations, namely Nurses Across the Borders, Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung, and Green Mobilisation Initiative. Today's side event has a theme: strengthening international collaboration for national engagement and development strategies. Permit me to give a brief remark on the essence of this side event. One of the major outcomes of the UNFCCC COP27 conference held in Egypt last November under the Glasgow Sharm el-Sheikh Work Programme on the Global Goal on Adaptation, referred to in Decision 7/CMA3, was the establishment of a framework on the decision to initiate the development of a framework for the Global Goal on Adaptation to be undertaken through a structured approach, recognizing that adaptation is a global challenge faced by all, with local, subnational, national, regional, and long-term global and international dimensions. And it's a key component of and makes contribution to the long-term global responses to climate change to protect people, livelihoods, the ecosystems, taking into account the urgent and immediate needs of developing country parties that are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. This multifaceted side event will address the progress, problems, and prospects of the Global Stocktake and explore the development and training program opportunities that strengthen national institutions, engage the climate change crisis, and promote ecological restoration through tree planting. It speaks to the thematic areas of this SB 58 conference on mitigation, including response measures, health, capacity building, disaster risk reduction, risk assessment and insurance systems transformation. The goal of this event is to explore the South-North collaboration for the development of implementation of education, training programs, including the strengthening of national institutions and the exchange or secondment of personnel to train experts on scientific, technical, and managerial levels. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have 6 distinguished speakers and experts that will be talking to us on different topics relating to this theme. And to kick the ball rolling, we have Dr. Farouk Umar Abubakar. Dr. Farouk Umar Abubakar is a current registrar and the Secretary General of the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. Dr. Farouk was appointed the Registrar of the Nursing Council in 2016. He holds a doctorate of philosophy in nursing education with a master's in both nursing science and public administration, and started as a registered general nurse to registered nurse educator. Now he is reaching to the pinnacle of his career as a registrar. On assumption of duty, he was confronted with many challenges within the nursing profession, ranging from nursing and midwifery education reform, administrative and social challenges, which he has speedily transformed. Today, he has widened the scope, reformed the systems, unite Nigerian nurses, and improve relationships locally and internationally with Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. All this has earned me the title Digital Registrar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to the podium, speaking to us virtually, Dr. Farouk Umar Abubakar. Dr. Abubakar, are you online? You are, okay, he's muted. Yeah. Yes, you are muted. Can you please unmute your phone, sir? Okay, I think what we may have to do, okay, all right. Maybe he's having some technical problems. Okay, it's on. All right. All right, sir, we have you online. Can you unmute your phone, sir? Hello, sir, can you unmute your phone? You know what? Can we, okay, sir, can we move your presentation to the second slide? I mean, on the agenda. Okay, all right.
Hello?
Hello, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's ready to go now.
All right, sir. You have 6 minutes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, distinguished audience. Good. Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you see your slide on the screen, sir? There.
Yes, I'm not seeing it now. That's what I'm trying to open my own slide.
Oh.
Because the one you share is not visible for me.
Oh.
That's why I'm trying to open my own slides.
Sorry.
Just a minute. I'll open my own slides.
All right, sir.
Yeah. Eh?
Can we move you to the second speaker, sir, so that we can have this first speaker while you sort that out, sir?
All right, please go ahead. Move me to second speaker.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, sir. Apologies for the technical glitch. Our second speaker is a board member of the Climate Action Network Arab World, where she represents Egypt in the network and supports the climate action in the Arab world. And she is also a volunteer as the head of the entrepreneurship unit in the AYBSD, where she's supported with the projects. She supports youths to have their own green projects and reducing environmental literacy among university students. Annie Shahen also works as a climate justice and gender equality program manager, UKA in Cairo, where she holds the environmental action and local organization Egypt. Annie is a master's degree holder of gender and development with more than 10 years experience in the climate activism field. Annie is going to be taking some questions on a sub-theme, which is the role of civil society in the climate agenda locally, regionally, and internationally, and how impactful they can be. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome our speaker, Ms. Haneen Hamed, with a clap of her. You're welcome. So, I have 2 questions for you.
Yep.
And you have 3 minutes to answer each of the questions.
Shoot.
All right. Your first question is, in a region that is facing so much challenges, such as political instability and lack of resources, do you see climate agenda as a priority?
Yep. Well, okay, so I will be lying if I will say a full yes. Okay, we have a lot of, as you said, we have a political situation across the region. We have poverty situation, horrible economic situation across the region, especially in Egypt. So it's very challenging to see the environment on top of the list of disasters that we are facing. However, having 2 COPs in a row in the region benefit us a lot, hugely. So usually we, like in Egypt, for example, we've never spoke about environment as much as we did last year. And I remember my mom finally understood that I've been doing for more than 10 years because the president showed up on the TV and talking about environment and climate change and so on and so. So COP put environment on top of the agenda. COP showed the opportunities that can be done, the level of investment, the collaboration that can happen. Also, it showed governments, especially in the region and in particular countries, how important civil society are, especially the ones who are working with grassroots and the frontliner when it comes to the adaptation and dealing with local communities. And for the first time in years, we finally had those kind of meetings that, tell us what is happening on the ground, so we can have these discussions with world leaders and bring on the table what can be done to benefit local communities. So I don't know what is going to happen after COP leaves the region. So, in Egypt, the tone slowed down definitely after COP. So we stayed for a year just talking about environment and how climate change is very important and we have to work directly on it. But and things slowed down a bit. But the upcoming COP, still give it a bit of it's an Arab COP and it's an Arab country, so we're still talking about it and we are still the presidents. But now it's literally on us as civil society to keep the momentum and to build on what we are going to gain from COP28 as we gain from COP27, honestly.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, that was quite insightful. I would give you the second question, but at the end, I will take you up on one of the things you said. During COP27 last year, do you believe civil society organizations achieved their goals?
Sort of. So we had several goals, honestly, from COP27. First one is to show how vulnerable we are, how vulnerable local communities are, and the challenges we are facing towards inclusion, being part of the discussion, being part of the global discussion. For example, Egypt has only one certified accredited NGO with 104 million population country, and we only have one civil society member in the UNFCCC. So it was a shock. For us, it was very important to introduce what COP is to the Egyptian civil society, to make sure that it's as inclusive as possible to the local civil society. Also, we wanted to engage more with Africa and make it an African COP in terms of the solidarity between the local organization across the continent. And I believe that we achieved at least 80% of that. And it was visible how a lot of local organizations took that one-time accreditation badge where we got access to COP venue, to the Blue Zone. And it was really insightful for all the local NGOs that never heard of what is COP, what is UNFCCC, and they've been working in the environmental field for so long. And also we engaged really on a really, really good, close level with the local NGOs across Africa. And we joined lots of movements like Don't Gas Africa, for example, and the nodes across the region. We worked closely with them. And the presence of a lot of civil society members from the region as well was very significant. So we achieved that. Human Rights Matter was very important for us last year. And it was very important to talk about human rights violation, challenges that we are facing in terms of activism, how we are working on the ground. And it was properly addressed. And also the loss and damage, which was our fight. And we fought to have it on the agenda. We fought to have it as a fund and something that we can come out of COP27 with. And we achieved that. Our challenge now, our hope now, honestly, is to build on what we did last year. The same level of inclusion, the same level of accessibility to COP28, the education level that happened during COP27 to the region is very important, and we want to build on it to the whole region as well, because we don't know when it's going to come back. And the human rights is still a very important matter, and no climate justice without human rights. And also, something that's really important for us this year is to make sure that this COP is fossil fuel free, and we want to keep on pushing on that matter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Annie. Just for 30 seconds, this is an extra question.
Okay.
Now, you had one observer NGO as of last year, which provided the opportunity for other delegates for other NGOs to participate. Now, how many NGOs now have taken up the responsibilities to start the application process as observer organizations from Egypt following COP27?
So honestly, the challenge is the process of the UNFCCC is very horrible to local NGOs. So the system itself has a lot of cracks, but for my knowledge, 15 NGO applied. I believe 10 got rejected.
Oh yes, you could mean that question was deliberate because between 2004 and 2009, my NGO was the only NGO from Nigeria that has accreditation. So every delegate from other civil society organizations that wanted to participate in COP had to come to us. But today, we encourage them. We have a lot of NGOs from Nigeria. Thank you very much.
We need to take your lead on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annie. Thanks. That was very good. So I want us to go back to our first speaker, Dr. Abubakar. Are you ready for us, sir? Hello, sir. All right. Let's go to our talk speaker. Our top speaker was supposed to be here today. Let me also say, let's be on record, that the challenges delegates are facing from Africa to come to Bonn is a big problem in terms of visa and in terms of the undue protocol that the embassies in Nigeria places upon African delegates. A situation whereby the UNFCCC will accredit 10 delegates per NGO and will submit applications for visa, and then the embassy will decide to reduce the number to 1 or 2, asking you to choose among that. That to us is discriminatory. And that is why today we do not have our third organizer, Gabriel Aborele, who's going to be the next speaker here today, because he's the executive director of Green Mobilisation Initiative. Mr. Aborele is the founder and national coordinator of Green Mobilisation Initiative, an NGO based in Nigeria. He holds a master's degree in forest, ecology, and conservation, and a bachelor's of science degree in forestry and wildlife management from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abuja, Nigeria. He is an environmentalist and a forestpreneur, climate change activist, creating awareness in ecosystem restoration designs and tree planting activities with the involvement of schools and communities in participatory manner. He has also been very active in the CS2 participation in the negotiations of the Conference of Parties from COP25 to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. He has organized tree planting sessions with secondary schools that he has planted trees in almost 50 secondary schools in the federal capital of Nigeria. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Gabriel Aborele, who will be talking to us today on promoting ecological restoration in schools through tree planting. Mr. Aborele, you have the floor, sir. 6 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you, sir?
Please, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you very much. It is indeed my very humble pleasure to be part of this event via this medium. Just like Mr. Peter has explained, circumstances beyond my control led to my not being there in person. Well, I will be looking. I don't know how I'm going to share my slide. Or maybe I will just be talking.
Yeah, you go ahead and talk because you didn't send your slide to me. I'm sorry.
Okay, sir. I'm so sorry about that, sir. Well, what I would be talking about is promoting ecological restoration in schools through tree planting. Nature remains the most precious gift to humanity. We all know that we depend on landscapes for our survival, as it provides food, water, clean air, a stable climate, and many more other reasons. However, its management has resulted in various environmental challenges, which has led to flooding, resource conflict, air pollution, deforestation, erosion, heat waves, desertification, and migration. And we know, especially in this part of our world, in Nigeria, especially in the last 8 years, we all knew the kind of crisis we had. And most of this crisis has been from resource conflict, migration of people from one place to another, leading to serious crisis. So Green Mobilization Initiative, was established to achieve an environmentally sustainable environment in schools and communities through raising awareness of the values of the Nigerian ecosystem and promoting the involvement of all sectors of the society and the government in its management. In this manner, GMI tree planting has taken place in over 26 schools in the FCT alone. Apart from Abuja, we have also extended our tree planting to other states in Nigeria. And the reason why we have concentrated in schools is because, one, land is a very big problem. Most people will tell you a degraded land has other uses. For instance, they might want to use it for school or for buildings. They might want to use it for other things, but not for conservation purposes. So it's a big challenge. So as an NGO, what we did is to look for key stakeholders within Nigeria. And one of the key stakeholders is the schools. And why we decide to go into schools is, one, school is a permanent structure owned by the government. So whatever activities we do there, we expect that is going to be sustainable. And at the same time, we have a lot of thousands of students in these schools. So what we have been doing, especially in amplifying the adaptation method by which people can adapt to the changing climate, was to quickly get the students involved so that they themselves will know what the problem that is on hand and be part of the solution. So the objectives of this environment, promoting ecological restoration in schools, is, one, to raise awareness on tree planting and highlight positive uses of trees as nature-based solution for the preservation of biodiversity and climate change mitigation. Secondly, to explore the role every individual could play to protect the ecosystem. Thirdly, to beautify and create a serene environment conducive for learning. And lastly, to inspire the youth to be conscious of their environment. Some of the projects we have embarked on is, one, we had a project we called Planting for Peace. This we did, especially in communities around Kaduna, where we had that are prone to religious crisis, for instance. What we did, we called multi-stakeholders in that particular area of Sabotasha. We brought them together and let them know that when two elephants, what I mean by that, we have two major religious groups in Nigeria, that is the Islam and Christianity. We wanted them to know that our environment is something that is very important to each and every one of us, and the need to take care of this environment. So we were able to use the tree planting to bring everybody together, and it came out to be a very wonderful exercise. I have beautiful pictures here, which I won't be able to share with you. And also in about 2 years ago, also in collaboration with the Ogun State government, we did a project we call 10,000 trees for schools. And this exercise was carried out in about 8 schools, comprising over 10,000 students. Each of the students were made to plant trees, and they were told to extend this same message back to their communities. And the essence of it was that it could curb erosion, it could increase soil fertility, which will ultimately translate to better livelihood for their communities. And also, we have been doing, and the success stories we have had, sir. In some of the slides we have here, we have seen trees that have grown more than about 10 meters in height. And part of the success stories is very enlightening and very cheering for us. We have been having schools that no longer depend on canopies for end of year, but rather they stay under the canopies of trees.
1 minute more, sir.
Okay, under the canopies of trees to have their event done. So we are calling that for this kind of project to proceed, collaboration is very key. And we need to form a kind of synergy that can help to take this kind of project to every nooks and crannies of our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aborele. Thank you very much. And once again, we sympathize with you for your inability to be here with us. Dr. Abubakar, sir, are you ready for us? Hello, sir. Are you ready for us? Hello, we can hear you. Are you ready for us now? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm ready for you.
All right, sir. 6 minutes, sir. Your time starts now.
Okay.
You are on, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Peter and distinguished participant. Let me apologize for the technical hitches on my own side. My topic is on this occasion, I want to say that climate change presents the single largest threat to global development. And in that respect, NASIS make reasonable contribution to both mitigate climate changes. Healthcare education can develop climate-informed health program for emerging infectious and communicable diseases. Health sector will engage in sustainable practice and build the response capacity of the health workforce in health and climate research, most especially nurses and midwives. It also ensures participation in intersectoral policies and government responses. Nursing profession has a duty to contribute to climate change adaptation and mitigation, as it is committed to protecting health and well-being and to promoting social justice. Effective planning can enable all developing countries to assess their vulnerabilities, climate change risks, and address their adaptation. Therefore, investing in climate and healthcare education will include resources and infrastructure must be invested in climate change and health research to inform best practice and policies in national adaptation plans. Health professionals need more formal exposure education in climate science, public health, and the ways that climate change and health intersect. Therefore, climate change education should be implemented through colleges of nursing science and the universities that offer a nursing program in all spheres of the Nigerian continent. Healthcare education will support effort to close a gap in climate information services to make informed decisions about how to address the risks posed by changing climate in our society. Distinguished participants, it may interest to know that training of more nurses and midwife healthcare workers will certainly increase demand for well-educated and trained nurses is likely to occur as the incidence and prevalence of non-communicable disease are rising across the globe as a result of climate change. Therefore, education is imperative to climate change in order to secure a safe and sustainable future. Nurses and other health workers provide holistic care and humanitarian services during the event of disaster caused by a result of climate changes. Therefore, training more nurses who provide first aid and other services to save the life of victims is important. The role played by nurses across the border, so far, as the first NGO from Africa to have begun the campaign for climate change and public health, was acknowledged with gratitude. Distinguished participants, it may interest to know that curriculum, there is need to include a climate change in our curriculum in medical and nursing education that cover climate change, preparedness to promote health and eco-health literacy. Nursing training institutions are encouraged to become leaders in the field of climate change to catalyze the support and strong public health responses. Distinguished participants, in conclusion of my presentation, NASA Military Council is prepared to collaborate with nurses across the border and its international partners in achieving all the proposals highlighted in this presentation. Because developing countries suffer more from the effect of climate change, largely caused by developed countries. The United Nations has a role in supporting these initiatives that will enhance both the NDC and the NAP in our countries, and certainly will promote collaboration and bring better change in order to mitigate the climate change in our society. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. That was brief, that was to time, and very rich in content.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. And just to remind us, Dr. Abubakar spoke on how can healthcare education strengthen collaboration for building a strong national adaptation plan. And that takes us to the fourth speaker. He is a director and regional coordinator of Climate Action Network Southeast Asia and president of Environmental Protection Society Malaysia. I won't mention his name until I'm ready to. So he has attended the UNFCCC COP since 2000. And from 2001 to 2009, he served as editor of ECHO, Cannes daily news publication at the COPs. He represents CANSI as co-organizer of the Just Transition Forum in Asia, which holds annually in collaboration with the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung since 2021. He is an elected civil society observer to the Climate Investment Funds, a member of the advisory group of the Climate Investment Funds Evaluation and Learning Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome to the House a veteran in the civil society with the UNFCCC, Mr. Nithiyananthan Nesadurai. He's going to continue the discussion that Annie started, which on the sub-theme, the role of civil society in the climate agenda, locally, regionally, and internationally, and how powerful they can be. And this he will do by answering 2 questions in 6 minutes. Are you ready, sir? Your mic is not on.
Yep.
All right, sir. My first question, sir, is in the context of international commitments and national activities, where do you see the role of the civil society? That's 1A. The B side of that question is, and what are the strengths and challenges associated with their contribution? 3 minutes.
Sure. First of all, you're very kind in using the word veteran for me. Within the Cannes circle, they refer to me as dinosaur. So, and I'd really like to commend the organizers for hosting the side event on the topic of strengthening international collaboration for national development and engagement strategies. And I'd like to first show how this can really be applied, how this is being applied in the context of Southeast Asia, especially on international multi-stakeholder collaboration. And this is a project, known as Innovative Regions for a Just Energy Transition. And it is a plan to implement just energy transition in an active coal mining region in Indonesia, which is one of the largest coal mining countries in the world and one of the largest exporters of coal. And here, this is the example of the international collaboration, the participation by International Labour Organization, International Trade Union Confederation, Climate Action Network, Wuppertal Institute, and the International Institute for Sustainable Development. So that's the stakeholders. And then it's a partnership between the German government and the Indonesian governments, which is represented at national, provincial, and local level. So there's vertical integration amongst all agencies. So I'm really glad that this topic for the side event gels very much. And we've gone live on June 1st of getting onto the ground, and we'll be on the ground for 3.5 years. And we really hope we can create a model for this international collaboration. So then the role becomes CAN's role. What is the role of civil society? So it's very much the role CAN will be playing in what is known in short form the IKIJET project in the province of Indonesia. And what can civil society bring? Now, civil society represents the whole spectrum of society. We are connected with those frontline communities, the marginalized communities, right there on the front lines, on the grassroots, right up to talking about policy at the very high political elite level, going to ministers, articulating for them to change policies. And we can connect immediately from what's happening on the ground and take it to the discussion levels at policy levels in the government offices much faster than probably the government agencies can. So that's the advantage we have. And the second part is we have diversity. Who do we represent? We are environmentalists, climate change activists. Then we also have representation from the women and gender constituencies. We bring the voice of youth, we bring the voices of people with disabilities, indigenous peoples, local communities, faith groups, and even health groups. So we represent a broad spectrum of society. So we bring diversity, we bring inclusivity, and thereby we can bring a lot of multi-perspectives to the discussion. With the common, we have no vested interest, so we want to address climate change. We want climate ambition, and we come from with no vested interest, no motives. We really want the situation to be improved for the people, for the communities, for the country, and for the planet. Just to wrap up, what are the challenges some of us face? Some of the challenges we face is sometimes there's no institutional framework for consultations. So sometimes it's hard. We say we want a place at the table. It's like we want a meeting. Sometimes even getting a meeting is the challenge. So the institutional frameworks, so this is something we're hoping to create in our project. And I mean, wherever civil society operates, the ability to get a place at the table. And sometimes there's a largely negative perception of civil society. They say that, you only make a lot of noise. And this is something we've been hearing here, actually, from some of our party representatives. You only complain, you don't provide solutions. You're not supporting equity. Your consultation is not mainstream. I mean, I don't agree with any of this. It's opposite in part. This is what they're telling, So, and the other big challenge is the lack of civic space for civil society, and that is shrinking, especially in my region in Southeast Asia. The challenges of civil society, our ability to articulate and provide alternative views is getting less and less. So that's another challenge we face.
Thank you very much. I have a third question for you, but at the end of your made 2 questions. Okay, let me just ask you the question now. Would you support the idea for civil societies to be made part of the negotiators in the UNFCCC process?
Oh, definitely. I do.
We need more.
Yeah,
Inside the room.
I mean that's already happening. I mean, with some delegations, one would call them progressive, and this has been happening, for the 28 years, where their whole delegation comprises all the different stakeholders, including civil society, and some of the civil society representatives even represent the delegations, as focal points in various meetings. So yes, definitely.
That is, to us, that is a very welcome development in Asia, but from our part of the world, I mean, normally most countries include their civil society delegations as parties. They wear the party badge and take them along to meetings. They don't necessarily need to speak, but they can act as support for the government delegations. But in some African countries, it's made an exclusive preserve. So, they are not prepared to even engage the civil societies, and that has been a challenge that we are facing. We've been taking them on that we are there as stakeholders to support the development, national development. We are not, even if we criticize any government in the first place, it is to actually make them do what is supposed to be done, isn't it? So your last question, sir, is with the whole discussion on just transition, where do trade unions stand, and do you believe they are engaged in the process as needed?
Yeah. So trade unions, I'm not from the trade union, so I respond to the question with respect to the trade union people, the trade union constituency. They were the first movers on just transition globally, if you look at it historically, because, as the trend of the pressure on reducing coal in the electricity, in the energy mix, gained momentum. Coal mines started being phased out, and so it became it became an issue affecting workers. And even now, as we need to call for the end of fossil fuels, phasing out fossil fuels, the trade unions are very much active in this space, because what happens to the workers who are affected? They're directly affected. They're employed. They have livelihoods. So they've been the ones who have actually been driving the whole issue of just transition, especially, with the transition away from fossil fuels towards renewable energy. So they've been the first movers on this issue. And they were also very instrumental. They were also an important stakeholder. When the International Labour Organization came up with this just transition guidelines, they provided a lot of inputs to that. So they are here within the UNFCCC as a recognized civil society constituency, Tungos, trade union, NGOs. So they have a very important role to play, and they continue to play it, and we collaborate with them very much. So like I said, even in the IkiJet project, they are partners.
Thank you very much, Mr. Niti. Thank you, sir. So we move on to our fifth speaker, who is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur nurse and the CEO, Blue Touch Home Care Limited, the first registered home care agency in Nigeria, founder and president of African Nurses and Midwives Network, a Pan-African nurses and midwife organization working towards uniting nurses and midwives in Africa and African region. Nurse-led organization and nurses and midwife associations into one formidable force. Our speaker has worked with global research nurses under the Global Health Network, University of Oxford, UK from 2014 to 2023, and served as a global research nurse African regional lead. He was selected as an alternate in 2015 for the President Obama Mandela Fellowship Program, YALI, and 2020 YALI RLC West Africa Cohort 13. He is a social enterprise fellow with the Cycle of Health International, Austin, Texas. He is a maternal health ambassador since 2012 with motherhood around the globe. Gentlemen and ladies, permit me to welcome Mr. So you were thinking of a woman, is a man, Mr. Ralueke Ekeze, who is the Nigerian lead to the World Continuing Education Alliance. And he'll be speaking on using high-impact healthcare professionals training for climate change and public health education through the largest and fastest verified network of healthcare organizations in Africa. Mr. Ekezie, you have the floor.
Hi, good afternoon. I just want.
Can you see your slide?
If you guys can, if all of you can hear me.
Can you see your slide? Sorry, Ralph, can you see?
I can't.
Can you see your slide?
Yes, I can see.
All right, you have the floor. 6 minutes.
All right, so I'm Ral Ekezie, just as introduced. I'm the lead representative of consultant for World Continuing Education Alliance in Africa. Speaking on using high impact professional training for climate change and public health education through the largest and fast growing network, which is WCA. Here, what we do is that WCA is just an online platform that is technology, using it to get education across to healthcare professionals across Africa, low and middle income countries, nurses, midwives, doctors, healthcare professionals who need education. And having said that, we have about 725,000 healthcare professionals within 2020 to 2023 as a moment. And then coming to think about of it, what we've been talking about today is climate change, education, collaboration. And it cannot happen except if there's a medium. And WCA is providing that medium, the structure where you can pass this education to people who need it, which are healthcare professionals that could use it to also start to make an impact in the climate change sector. For instance, when Dr. Abubakar was speaking, he mentioned about creating curriculum and avenue for healthcare professionals to also contribute in the climate change. And WCA is already there, using technological advancement in providing CPDs, trainings, and other resources which are related to education for nurses and midwives and other healthcare professionals across the country. And we have collaborated with quite a number of notable people, such as Sanofi, Nursing and Military Council of Nigeria, the PIGO, all these people, and also of recent, the nurses across the border, who brought us here today as a social community function to talk about how we use this impact and collaboration to affect climate change across Africa. What this means is that we are going to work with nurses across the border to impact healthcare professionals across Africa using the knowledge of climate change. Also, we are using it to build capacity for healthcare practitioners around climate change through provision of training and programs. Also instill a professional sense of responsibility about climate change amongst healthcare practitioners who will be using WCA app and platforms. We also hope to promote NGO relationships across Africa and low and middle income countries with the provision of educational materials for climate change and in relation to climate change. We are also hoping to promote healthy lifestyle, which we all believe that information and education about climate change reaching everybody, including those who are going to plant the trees, will help us to improve the lifestyle of people across Africa. So that's why we are here today to talk about the projects we have discussed, and then projects we want to enter into with nurses across the border who made it possible for us to be here today. And also we want to take the floor to acknowledge the UNCC who made it possible for us to use this medium to talk about our impact and our projects on climate change. We also hope to work together with any organization who are interested in developing climate change related education, and also improve the delivery and the spread of information and knowledge across Africa related to climate change. As you may see in the map that we asked before, we have about 725,000 verified HCPs and about 200,000 impressions per day. These are people who visit this app and use the knowledge and information we provide there on a daily basis to educate people. And we believe strongly that with WCA and collaborating with nurses across the border, information and education, as well as production of resources in relation to climate change, we get to all areas that we need it to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. Thank you very much. Just stay behind because I know there are people prepared that will be asking you some questions. So we're moving on to our final speaker for today, and he's a barrister, a legal practitioner with a master's in environmental law. He wants to speak to us on the role of international organizations in campaign for climate change and healthcare legal framework in Nigeria and Africa. So may I introduce Barrister Chidiebere Chudi Ani to the podium.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I greet you all. My topic is the role of international organization in campaign for climate change and healthcare legal framework in Nigeria and Africa. I think the issue of climate change in Nigeria or Africa is what should be given a special attention, because as a preamble, if we look at the chronological order of legal framework or climate change governance from UNFCCC, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, all this has been at the international level. In fact, the international level is inundated with climate change issues and campaigns. Now, in Nigeria, as in Africa, we've seen the role of African Development Bank as regards climate change, and also we also have a Climate Change Act of 2021 in Nigeria. Now, the issue is as regards funding. We all know that the Global South contributes less than 3% of carbon emission to the atmosphere. On the other hand, the Global North, the industrialized nations, they've gone on with their industrialization and they've caused this havoc of climate change. Now, the concern in Nigeria and Africa is if you encourage Africans to pin down on the exploration of their coal and their fossil fuel in order to maintain the 1.5 we are working, and the Global North is now developing with that same fossil fuel and carbon and coal-based energy. We see that as a marginalization or neo-colonization, because if you look at it very well, if you tell somebody stop exploration of your fossil fuel and your carbon energy-based fuel and your coal, and back there in the Global North, you are exploring it, using it to make money, using it to develop yourself. There must be a strong framework, legal framework between the Global North and the Global South, with which funding can be, adequate funding can be pushed to the global South. Now, if we're talking of the framework that will ensure health and ensure the climate change campaign, the international organizations must come, because loss and damages we're talking about in concrete it's not enough to assuage the issue of, to assuage Africans or the Global North or the Global South of the intention you have that they should pin down their carbon and their fossil fuel exploration. So if we must achieve these climate change goals ourselves, COP28 must ensure that there is something on ground for Africa. That is why I've come to the issue. I've given you the chronological order of global governance, of climate change governance from the time of UNFCCC, and we've even gone ahead in Nigeria to enact the Climate Change Act of 2021. But the problem now is that it is at the national level. There's not been enough campaign at the subnational level, the states and the local governments. And this is where the main issue comes. I think this approach should be a bottom-to-top approach, not a top-to-bottom approach. Because if we are looking at the legal framework, you should be talking of now that Nigeria has Climate Change Act of 2021. The next thing is that what is the implementation? The people at the subnational, the local government, what is the awareness they have? That is where NGOs like Nurses Across the Border comes in, and other NGOs, and other multinational NGOs should come in. Apart from what is coming from United Nations, they must come in to sponsor these things. So that one doctor was talking about having it in curriculum, in school curriculum. What of
1 minute, please, to round up.
Taking this campaign to the local people in their languages. So if we should encourage establishment or enactment of climate change laws at the state level and at the local government level, and it must come by way of campaign by NGOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that have been speakers speaking on different topics. 6 eminent speakers, they've spoken, and we want to move on to interactive session where we want to encourage contributions from the floor, questions. Then from those online, if we have any questions online, we'll be glad if you can let us know. And so we want to use the next 10 minutes to do this. 10 minutes for our interactions, questions and answers, please. So who will be the first to bail the cat? Yes, please. Let's meet you, your name and your organization you represent, please.
Hi. My name is Enrique from the Plant-Based Treaty. And thank you so much for your talk, everyone. We have heard about reforestation, about soil richness. We have heard about health and health education, and we have also heard how the global north should contribute a lot more in terms of the loss and damage found. I was wondering if the G77 countries have pondered the question of transitioning to plant-based diets in order to tackle health consequences. Make it more sustainable and climate resilient diets, at the same time as combating also zoonotic diseases and using less resources. And second part question was, what challenges would you face and what help would you like to see from the global north other than loss and damage? Would you also be interested in information, resources, or just the loss and damage found that is your main your point of focus?
Thank you very much. Are you directing a question? Is it a general question you want? Anybody can answer the question? All right. You want?
Well, I can answer the second part.
Okay, go ahead.
So for the second part of the question, what we want from Global North is to include more and listen to the Global South, it's like the first basic thing, include them more, and to hand over the finance. We need finance, we need technology transfer, and the mitigation working group needs to work hard on how they are going to make the finance and mitigation happen and support the Global South to achieve their mitigation actions through all the supports that is needed to be done with no loans money and a very direct grants so we can achieve what we want to achieve. That's from my point of view.
Is there any person that want to add to what Haneen just said from the speakers? So, yes, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And the issue of livestock production or meat production accounts for about 15% of greenhouse gas emissions. And as the developing world incomes rise, there's a tendency now for increase in consumption of meat because it's seen as a coming of age thing, now. So that's an issue. So that's completely unsustainable if that happens. It cannot, if that happens, the consequences on emissions and land use loss, land loss is going to be very significant. So there needs to be a transition towards shifting from animal-based or meat-based protein to plant-based protein. So this is something we've been aware of in Cairns, Southeast Asia, and with Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung in our Just Transition Forum in Asia, which we've been holding for the past 2 years. Last year, we held a Just Protein Transition Lab as to how we can make the transition. So and there's also prior to that, certain groups like World Animal Protection, 50x40, ProVeg, came up with a Just Protein Transition Communique for Asia, which I had the privilege of launching last year at SP56. So I think, when we are making the transition, I think sometimes we can make our first initiatives at the national level, at the government level, and doesn't automatically always mean that we need support from the global north, even though I think that is something we're entitled to. So I think sometimes when you just take the issue up at the national level and talk to governments, I think certain things can already happen. Certain things can move in terms of policies, actions, etc., with the support from the other stakeholders, including those, providing more options in terms of vegan-based diets and alternative proteins. So yeah, no, I hear it's a very, very big issue. It's an issue which is under-discussed in the COPs, and it's important to address it. And I think collectively, with a multi-stakeholder approach, we can drive the shift you're talking about to plant-based proteins.
Yeah, I think, just to add to what the two speakers have just said, if you listen to the last speaker, where he spoke about using a bottom-up approach instead of the top-bottom approach to most of these issues, that this speaks directly to your question. Yes, the idea of moving from animal-based to plant-based diet, yes, it's practicable, it's possible in developed countries, but in developing countries where you know that development, even our agricultural, in developed countries you practice mechanized farming, but in Africa you still see men and women use their physical strength to plant and to do whatever they want. So for us to be able to achieve that, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of aids, not in terms of money, because Africa or developing country needs the right equipment to be able to also produce their farm products in a way that is commensurable to the international countries. The other issue has to do with funding. The global north appears to see funding as a handout to Africa or NGOs, but the problem we have in the civil society is that majority of the global north do not engage the civil society, who are closer to the grassroots. If you need to deal and need to have any impact on the people on the grassroots, you need to work with the civil societies. And then just like the curriculum that we'll be talking about trying to introduce in Nigeria, introduce climate change and public health into curriculum, into healthcare professionals curriculum. Yes, the agencies are there, they want to do it, but the budget given by the government is not a budget for them to initiate projects like this. But they are very interested in providing this, but they require fund. And the question is, okay, fine, we want to do this. How do we start this training? How do we develop this training? So these are some of the areas whereby we're looking for partners, people to begin to put actions to the words. It's not just because just give us money to engage one project, but these are right now what we need is education on climate change, and so that is what we want. So please, second question. I thought a second question, please. Can we have the lady, please? Sorry. Yeah. Your name and where you come from. No, the lady. Sorry, I want to be gender sensitive.
Thank you. So my name is Sangeet, and I am from Climate Focus. And I guess my question, well, it's a reflection and a question. I think the panel touched on a variety of different topics and sectors, and this sort of dynamic between global north, global south. And if we think about sort of the development pathways that have existed, right? And the fact that countries in Africa, some in Asia and also Latin America, are still in the development pathway and model that is sort of that's emerged from Europe with particular practices that are not sustainable when you think about monoculture or the dependency on fossil fuels for the energy sector. There needs to be sort of a transformation, right, on multiple sectors. So if you think of agriculture, we can't think of we need to think of intensification, not necessarily large lands being turned into agricultural fields in the global south countries. And similarly with fossil fuels, I'm more of a forestry person, not so much a energy person, but there's a lot of transformation that needs to happen, and I'm wondering what your take is on the role of civil society at the national level in informing these discussions and decision making, because ultimately that's where the decisions are made, and we are locked in to 10, 20 years of certain policies, right? I guess, yeah, having a seat at the table is important, but how do you think, civil society can sustain this long-term thinking in governments to, start transforming these key sectors so that they're more in the line of, mitigating while being, pursuing development?
Thank you very much.
Sorry for the long question.
Yes. Mr. Nit, you want to take that question? Please. Okay, is anybody from the online people? Is anybody online that wants to respond to that question? Any of the speakers online that want to address? Want to respond to the last comment? Okay, let's have you 2 minutes because we need to.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I think the points you have raised are already being discussed at the national level. I cover Southeast Asia, and I know there's active discussion on protecting biodiversity and reducing the footprint. I just want to say how important the discussions we are having here at the SPs and at the COPs relating to climate finance will be the enabler for what you're suggesting as well, in the sense that we have, the global South has to transition, like you said, transform, and a lot of that has to come with finance, technology transfer, capacity building. So that's how we're going to get there. And also, a lot of what you have suggested are in countries' NDCs, and finance is the means for us to achieve our NDCs, because a lot of the NDCs of the Global South, a lot of it they can do themselves. Nearly all of the NDCs rely on international support to achieve. So that's one, we need the finance. And the second thing is how do civil society champion these issues in a long term? And one of the answers is actually the forming of networks, to networks, thereby, then you can, and collaboration between sort of national networks and international networks, which then enables the sustainability to carry on and push these issues in the long term. So, yeah, that's how I look at it.
Thank you very much. We have there's somebody online who wants to speak. Okay, Mr. Chudi, Barrister Chudi.
Can I answer something?
Yes. Okay. Before you speak, hold on, Barrister, please.
I think also it's very important to acknowledge the importance that the NDCs needs to be coming from down bottom, right? Like down. It's like from the grassroots to the people and decision-making positions. And it's very important as well that the narrative that is used in these areas, in the closed rooms, is interpreted and translated to like common people to understand what the hell is happening in Bonn and how it reflects our future. A communication channel needs to be clear, direct, straightforward, and simple so people can understand. Accordingly, when we are talking about a long-term legal system or like a convention that is binding all the countries or an NDC that needs to be implemented, the people on the ground will adopt and understand, oh yeah, that's what we are asking for, and that's what exactly going to like take us from that position to where we want to go. And the most important part, and that's the main role now of the civil society, is to take care of the false solutions that's been introduced as, yeah, we want development, but we don't want the global north development. We want a clean development that can give us the good life standard that we want, and with a sustainable means, with very low emission things. And it can be done. Science told us that it can be achieved. So all the things that the Global North did, we don't want it, and we don't want these visions of the full solutions that being on board. So it's very important to bring out our own solutions and the Global North to support it by giving us the finance. So
thank you very much. Barrister Judy, 1 minute, please.
Yes, the first speaker has really touched on what I wanted to speak on, that is climate finance. And we, just as you said, the global not see the finance as a handout to us. It's not. And what we are asking for is contained in the UNFCCC, common but differentiated responsibility. The global north has gained and have developed and have made money from this catastrophic climate change we are facing today. So if we must campaign and work to abate climate change, the global north must take a definite stand to finance the global south. If not, the global south will resort to self-help, to explore their fossil fuel and their coal. So it's not a handout to us. It is what is due to us as members of this earth that the global north has caused catastrophic climate change on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we take one last question? Yes, you wanted to say something, sir? Yes. Okay, 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much.
Your name and your organization, please.
Yes, my name is Okotola. I'm a lawyer from Uganda, coming from the National Youth Council. My question is, when I look around the title of the meeting, strengthening international collaboration for national engagement and development strategies, and some of the big problems that we have among young people and the organizations in my country is trying to get to the table, right? Trying to be in spaces where they can access finance and access information, access technology, collaborations for research and development. And I wanted to ask for advice when we are structuring organizations, your youth organization. What are some of the skill sets, the talents that you can impart within your team or within your thinking frameworks or your planning to be able to, at perennial level, to access these platforms where you can be able to take on collaboration. As National Youth Council, we continue to engage government for all these top-down strategies that we've been talking about, but could there be more proactive mechanisms in the short term that we could impart in working methods at civil society level? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Who's with the youth? Okay.
I will take the floor.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute.
So different levels. Honestly, international networks are very, very important. They give you like badges. They give you information, they give you solidarity and support, and they educate you on like the international and their local challenges as well, which is a very important thing, because you feel, oh yeah, no, because they are in the other part of the planet, it's like they're not facing the same challenges that we do have. So it makes you like not feel alone. You're just surrounded by a group of people who are suffering the same things you are suffering from. So international networks are important. Like collations are the best answer, and they're also, it's like for me, Niti is my source of what is happening in that side of the world, which I'm not yet privileged to go there, but whenever I'm struggling on understanding anything, he's the man I'm going to. So you are visiting all the regions by making friends. There are lots of open sources. Please use it and educate people and translate it, because yes, they are all in English and they're all in foreign language, and it's a disaster. But unfortunately, that's what we can get. But we can translate it and make it easier for our people. So that's actually what we've been doing. And it helped us to create our own material and our own platform that is like can be replicated on a national level. And also the closed region, which is like your neighborhood countries are your best friends, and moving together is the best way to not be broke down by governments, global north, anyone actually. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, that's the last comment we'll take from the floor. Just to add to my young lawyer, you've been here now, so we can exchange cards. So whenever we have any activity like we're having now, there's nothing wrong in inviting you to be part of our activity. That is what networking is all about. And so we are coming to the end of this 1 hour, 15 minutes program. And I'm going to call on one of the organizers of this event. Remember, 3 NGOs came together to put this together. That is I normally bite my tongue. Okay, let me try. Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung. The Nurses Across the Borders, FAS. And the FAS is represented here by the project manager, that is Dina Kispi. So she's sitting on my left. So she's going to give us a vote of thanks. And then after she does that, I will do a roundup, and then that will call it a day. And I also want to recognize our other co-organizer, that is Mr. Gabriel Aborele, who joined us virtually from Nigeria. So, Dina, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Just one comment to our young lawyer. Young people these days, just general, young people these days have a weapon that we didn't have, which is social media. Use it effectively. I think they can do so much impact with that. That being said, I think today's discussion was amazing. All of us, I think, with different backgrounds, but we all spoke about climate justice, inclusivity, and all of us aiming for a better future. So if you allow me to thank specifically our kind speakers, from joining us online, Barrister Choudhury, Farouk Abubakar, Gabriel Aborele, and Raloke Ekezie. Thank you so much for joining us online, and it's definitely unfortunate that you were not here with us physically. Hopefully things will be facilitated, and again, inclusiveness can be promoted more. My dearest friends, Neti and Haneen, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for our audience online. Amazing, warm-hearted thank you for you, our audience, joining us here. And the special thanks for our amazing moderator, Peters. So thank you so much, everyone. And I please you to have a big applause for our wonderful speakers today. Thank you.
So, distinguished participants here on site and online, there is no gainsaying that from the robust discussions here today from all these eminent speakers and experts, our side event captured fully the 5 targets of goal number 13 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is strengthening resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related disasters. Target number 2, integrate climate change measures into policies and planning. Third, build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change by improving education and awareness creation and human and institutional capacity adaptation and impact reduction and early warnings. Implement the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. We are awaiting this is very key. We are awaiting the firm commitment of the developed nations in rising up to their age-long promise to jointly raise $100 billion annually from all sources to address the needs of the developing countries in the context of meaningful mitigation actions and transparency on implementation, and fully operationalize the Green Climate Fund through its capitalization as soon as possible. Remember, this fund was supposed to have been paid from 2020. This is 2023. That promise, they made a pledge. We never forced them. They made a pledge that every year they will contribute $100 billion annually to support developing countries. But that is, so please help us to increase that voice so that they stand by what is promised. Lastly, promote mechanism to raise capacity for planning and management. Noise across the borders, FES, and Green Mobilisation Initiative are hereby appealing to international partners to support to take the outcomes of this event further to the grassroots in Africa and Asia. Thank you, and see you all in Dubai at COP28. By God's grace, Isha Allah. God bless you. Inshallah. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. You want your card? Let me have your card.